two. 1, 2, 3.
There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all. Cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
Alright, welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television, a podcast about bad books. I am J.W. Friedman, your host, and before we get started today, I'd like to issue a preemptive apology about potential sound quality issues and or animal interference, as this is being recorded 100% inside our home. A little bit of inside baseball there. I had some technical difficulties with the episode that was supposed to come out this week, which was Pancho Martinez and I discussing Michelle Remembers, but the fix is in the works, and that will probably be out next week. So in the meantime, we're jumping a bit ahead of the schedule here, and we're going to talk about a different book called A Princess of Mars.
The Princess of Mars.
The Princess of Mars, and that wonderful voice you're hearing right now is to take a page from Dave Shumka, a favorite podcaster of mine, my wife, who is also her own person, photographer and deep thinker, Centa Schumacher.
Also, you know what, though? You're right. It's A Princess of Mars, not The Princess of Mars. So I just interjected there for, no reason.
See, we're married. And before we get going too far, I'd like to take the time to immaturely respond to the first negative review that I've got on iTunes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because a guy said he was there, that he was upset because there were much better literature podcasts on iTunes, which, no shit, brother.
Right?
So, yeah, that's about all I have to say about it.
Why aren't you talking about Thomas Hardy?
Thomas Hardy?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, literature.
Oh. I was thinking he was the guy who starred as Captain America.
No.
Okay.
English novelist.
Okay, yeah, so anyway, you know who the smart one in our relationship
is.
So, anyway, now we're going to stop with all the dumb marriage quipping here. Because,
no, we will never stop.
Yeah, probably not, but I'm going to try my hardest.
I won't.
Okay. But we're here to talk about a book called A Princess of Mars, which is the first book in the series of the Barsoom trilogy, which I believe expanded way beyond a trilogy, correct?
I don't think it was ever even intended to be a trilogy. He was just I'm going to make money and write a lot of books. I think there's 12, maybe more, maybe less. 11?
There's a lot of them.
I've read them all, however many there are.
The Barsoom series.
Yes.
But here it is described, this book is described as the first of a trilogy called John Carter on Mars.
Yeah. But you could tell, maybe by, book 1.5 that he was I'm just going to make this Tarzan 2.
So I feel like now that I've already kind of let the cat out of the bag here and said the word John Carter and Mars, that a lot of people are going to kind of recognize this as something that was in a movie a couple of years ago, which was an adaptation of these books. So as we're discussing this, I want to remind everybody that the movie was a complete bastardization that had almost nothing to do with the story at hand.
Right, so maybe this book isn't good, but the movie was infinitely worse.
Yeah. And I think, as you mentioned that, it's worth mentioning, this is probably the first episode of the show where I think there's some serious contention in that I firmly believe this is a book bad enough to podcast about.
I love this book, and I, as I mentioned earlier, have read every single book in the series. I read them all in a row, in fact, because I loved them so much.
There was a 2-month period where there was nothing but Barsoom going on in our household.
Barsoom.
So
Nothing but Jet X and Tharks.
Yeah, Tharks and thinly veiled allegory for race and whatnot.
That was only in the first one. The only one you read.
Don't worry, we're going to get there. But for now, I'd like to start with something I'm going to call War of Opinions. This isn't normally a segment, but I think I might come up with a catchy song for it, so just in case... Song?
War of Opinions.
Okay, there we go. So, anyway, War of Opinions here. We're going to kind of go toe-to-toe about parts of the book we like and why. And that's kind of about it. So I'd like to start by asking you what your favorite part, what your favorite overarching part of this book was.
That's hard because there's a couple aspects of this book that I really genuinely loved. And I loved... Okay, so one of the things that I really liked is these different societies that lived on Mars. There's the ones that you're mainly introduced to in this first book are the green Martians and the red Martians. And there are different laws about how they interact and how they rise to power is really... I mean, he really thought this through, and there's really all these different rules, and I love rules, and I love people obeying the rules and then also skirting around the rules. And so watching John Carter assimilate himself into a community that he didn't understand was really interesting and amusing for me.
What I find interesting about that in particular is your mentioning of rules, because a really famous part of this book is the fact that like he had written outlines and diagrams for how all the societies worked before he even started writing any of the fiction. So those rules were pretty firmly entrenched before the story was even created. He's
a really excellent world builder, and as the books continue, they really flesh this out. But even in just this first one, it's just you really get a sense of this overarching historical narrative of the entire planet and how it has affected the different societies, and it's been really thought out. I mean, to compare it to another incredibly popular author who also sketched out all the rules and history of her novels beforehand, J.K. Rowling. I know. I'm not saying that there's a quality similarity, but for me, there's a similarity of enjoyable world building.
I enjoyed one a lot more than the other.
Yes,
and the one I enjoyed involved teenage wizards.
I'm just saying, people who think ahead, it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I especially think that when you're getting into a book that has a world as deep as this does, there's like 5 colors of aliens, yes. I believe. Yeah, it gets so deep that planning needs to come into play, especially when you're using it to illustrate horrible racism.
No, the racism is only at the beginning.
No.
So I don't...
Okay, yeah.
Many of your readers are probably similar in, like, you read science fiction of a certain, that's older than a certain age, there's racism in it. You're just like, oh, this is a good story, too bad there's racism. It's always there.
I think there's a lot of paternalistic racism in those old sort of books, but there's a lot less, like, quotes of a man being a Confederate captain who's a Southern gentleman of the highest type.
Right, so Jay, I know his main contention of racism is there's the introductory chapter of this novel has nothing to do with Mars, and in fact just is about John Carter running away from a group of Apache
before he ends up on Mars.
Yeah, and it is virulently racist. Mm-hmm. It's awful and incredibly paternalistic because he's like, oh, they're so noble and so savage and bloodthirsty and blah blah blah, and I mean it's awful. But I do want to point out that, I mean, this is awful also, but when I bought this book on Kindle, and you start up, those of you with Kindles, you start up the book, and it just kind of starts you wherever, and I always skim back, because I don't know if I've missed a really terrible cover image or something like that.
Yeah.
With this one, I missed an entire introductory chapter. It's kind of funny that you turn on the book, and it skips all the racist parts.
There's a phrase where it's described as he's such a great Southern gentleman that, quote unquote, slaves fairly worship the ground he trod.
Yes.
And as you mentioned the Apache thing, his paternalistic approach towards the portrayal of them is one thing, but when he's instantly transported to Mars, he's landed in a civilization that's almost presented as an exact kind of analog of like these tribal people who are waiting for their noble savior to kind of organize them and
he
like show
organize them
though.
No.
No, but the Mars exists for him to rule.
No, I mean no. He begins to understand the rules of Martian civilization, which is markedly different from Earth civilization, through the Tharks. And then he transitions into the Red Martians and is able to grapple with them because of his experiences with the Green Martians. In no way does he ever save them or rule them. he like gains enough powers to get respect, and you know that's like the Tom Cruise Last Samurai business. but like he never like rules them, and he does end up ruling the Red Martians, sure, but I don't think that there's quite a similar analog drawn between the Red Martians and the Apache, ironically.
These ferocious-looking Martians are infinitely less agile and less powerful in proportion to their weight to an Earthman. Carter doubts were one of them suddenly to be transported to Earth he could lift his own weight from the ground. Mars, with its impossibly arrested climate and cultures, are his to conquer.
Well, yes, but this actually was one of my, like, an interesting part of the book to me. So, okay, so Mars and Earth's gravity are not vastly different, but they're different enough that if, say, one of us was transported to Mars instantaneously, we would be a lot stronger than anybody who had natively grown up on Mars. This is actually like okay. Caveat, not a scientist at all. I think that's true, but
I'm pretty sure that's true.
Yeah.
We've both been to Kennedy Space Center.
Exactly. So I know. So in that way, okay, so that's actually one of my favorite things is the first thing he does is he shows up on Mars and he punches somebody once and they die. He punches a man to death. He punches actually a 6-legged green Martian to death, but it's, you know, technically a man. A chieftain. A Jed, yeah. In fact.
So somebody with status.
Yes.
It's like your first day in jail.
Yeah, and he punches him to death.
Yeah.
With one singular punch. That's how great John Carter is.
And then he gets a rad tattoo of a teardrop.
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
But he gets to collect the medal that the Jed was wearing. Jed is like a chief.
That's kind of cool, but not as cool as like a spider web on your elbow.
I guess not. No one's ever mentioned any tattoos on Mars.
You figure that would kind of be a thing because, you know, they're tribal.
Well, okay. The Tharks are super tribal. The Tharks are super tribal. Fair.
At any point in this book, the Tharks are about, like, 2 seconds away from making dream catchers.
But yes and no. They're also, like, it's in this way that's, like, they're completely different, like, species than the Red Martians. The Tharks are, like, 8-foot-tall, 6-legged horse people.
That's true.
And then the Red Martians are red people. Like, they're literal. And also, I keep saying red. Like, please don't think I'm being racist. Like, they're actually supposed to be, like, bright red.
Oh, no. Yeah. Nobody's thinking that. Don't worry.
Okay. I was realizing we were talking about Apaches and stuff, and I was like...
You haven't referred to their necks or their skins, so I think we're okay.
Mm-hmm. Truth.
But anyway, we're getting super deep already, and
I know.
And I was kind of hoping to save this for a little bit later, so
Sorry.
I think it's probably a good time for us to take a break. So thank you so... Thank you so much for sticking around. We are going to refill our glasses and our bottles of vitriol, and we'll be back in a few seconds. This is I Don't Even Own a Television, a podcast about bad books. With me today is Centa Schumacher.
Hi.
And we are discussing A Princess of Mars, the first book in Edgar Burroughs' Barsoom series. I'm not sure if we
Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Edgar Rice Burroughs. Why is that distinction important?
I don't know. That's always the way it's listed.
Usually when someone has a third name that's part of the public record, it's because they're a serial killer.
Yeah, maybe there was somebody, a douchier guy named Edgar Burroughs that Edgar Rice Burroughs just didn't want to be associated with.
Yeah, that's possible too. Sort of like Topher Grace.
Yeah.
Who's a Christopher, but I guess Christopher Grace was already there in the...
Christopher Grace sounds like a Christian rock band singer.
I hope nothing bad just happened because the cat just jumped up on the keyboard and I had to toss him down. But yes, it does sound like a Christian rock singer. Once again, inside baseball here in the house of I Don't Even Own a Television, which has a television and a cat and a bulldog. And I'm sure you'll be hearing more from both of them as the show progresses. So to start off, I wanted to talk about a little fact I was planning to drop on the head of my wife. All like, oh, I got a surprise for you. And that has to do with the lineage of Mr. Edgar Rice Burroughs.
I already knew this, though. I knew this, and I was going to propose it as a cool fact for the podcast. But then we both knew it.
Yeah, like...
So it's not that cool.
We were researching, and I popped my head on. And
I knew it before. I knew it when I started reading these.
I'm just saying, I popped my head out of the door, and I was like, whoa, I got a cool fact that's going to blow your mind. And you were like, I've got one, too. And, yeah, it was the same thing. And that's that Wes Anderson is Edgar Rice Burroughs' grandson.
Great-grandson.
Great-grandson. Well, damn, then mine was cooler. It was fake, but it was cooler. But yeah.
Wait, can I tell you another cool one?
Uh-huh.
It's not necessarily Barsoom related, but Edgar Rice Burroughs set up a whole entire little, community in LA, Tarzana, whatever. Mm-hmm. But it was also kind of racist. Surprise!
Yeah, no, that seems to be an ongoing theme here. And it's not the mean kind of racist. Edgar Rice Burroughs seems to have the best interests of the lesser people. At his heart, he just unfortunately thinks that
there are lesser people.
That there are lesser people, and that it's up to educated white men such as himself to save them. And I feel like this came through in the book a lot, but I kind of ranted and raved about that last segment more than I wanted to. So at this point, I kind of just wanted to hand it over to Centa and get her thoughts about kind of the allegory of the book and what's there behind the story. We haven't even really had a synopsis yet, so okay. I think this would be a good time to both kind of describe the book and also why you like it, because I still don't understand.
Okay, all right. So, basic synopsis of the book. Ex-Confederate goes out to Arizona to go find his wealth in mining with his buddy. They find an amazing mother lode, just the two of them. His buddy goes to leave for the nearest town to go tell somebody else so they can go mine it all. But he doesn't come back in time or something like that, and then John Carter goes and looks after him and then finds that his friend has basically been murdered by some Apaches. And he goes to try to rescue his friend, but it's already too late, and then the Apaches go and chase him.
On the warpath.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And they chase him into a cave that's filled with horrible, frightening, dead people, and he passes out in fear and wakes up and is on Mars. He nearly dies, but then punches someone to death, as I mentioned before, and becomes part of this warrior chieftain society, the Tharks, the six-legged men, Green Martians. And he's there for a while, doesn't know their language at all, starts to kind of slowly learn their language.
Which, actually, I'm surprised because if you've seen any of the Star Wars sequels, they basically talk like Jar Jar Binks. So.
No, they don't.
They did to me in the movie.
He's okay. We're not talking about that awful movie.
Okay, sorry.
The movie was offensive even about an already offensive story. It was just so bad. We're not talking about it anymore.
Okay, I stop now.
Okay, good.
Me stopping now.
Shut the hell up.
Okay.
All right. Where was I? So he's kind of a captive, kind of respected, but then the Green Martians draw down an airship and kill everyone except the most beautiful woman, queen of all women in the world, Dejah Thoris. Okay, let's just pause for a second and talk about how amazing Dejah Thoris is, because
I like her
she's
name.
The best.
Dejah.
But also, okay, so Martian women are better than any other woman that has ever existed.
How?
Because, first of all, they're naked.
Always?
Always.
Okay, cool.
Second, they will only get with a dude if they fight and win for her.
Don't like that part as much.
It's kind of awesome. And thirdly, they are the most stuck-up bitches in the whole world, and I have mad respect for them, because they don't put up with any fucking shit.
Totally.
Ever.
Don't like that part.
Well. Dejah Thoris is the queen of us all. But anyway, John Carter sees her for like 0.2 seconds and is like, that's the love of my life. I've never been in love before ever, but I'm in love with this woman that I've never talked to and can't understand her language. And so he basically ascends to power through the Green Martians just to win her favor and help her escape back to her Red Martians. A lot of things happen, including some things about the Tharks. Basically, okay, I'm skipping a whole lot. I'm skipping a lot.
That's okay.
The Tharks don't love. They have no emotions, but then one of them secretly does.
Of course.
And reveals it to John Carter. And then reveals that maybe some of them else do too. Mm-hmm. Some of the other ones do too. Some of them else. But he kind of doesn't really care because all he wants is Dejah Thoris. And then he escapes and tries, but Dejah Thoris suddenly is betrothed to someone else. And he wants to marry her, but she can't marry him unless he literally murders her fiance. So then eventually he does. Mm-hmm. And then they get married. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, they've skipped a lot. But then suddenly they stop it.
I just like to point out...
What?
Even if you read this book, it makes just as little sense.
Okay,
as
but
this
I'm
description.
not done.
I'm just saying, I want the listeners who haven't listened to this book.
I'm getting to an even weirder part.
Okay, I'm just saying.
And then at the end, everything's great. It's fucking awesome. He's married to Dejah Thoris. They have an egg. By the way,
Yep.
everybody on Martian, or everybody who is a Martian is born from an egg, and the eggs take like 5 years to incubate for some reason. So they have an egg. I don't know how Dejah Thoris lays this egg. This is not explained.
Do you think she has a cloaca? Is that how you say it?
Cloaca?
Cloaca, the creepy bird thing?
I don't want to know about
Okay,
Dejah Thoris' cloaca because she's my queen.
Okay.
And that's just rude.
I'm saying. That's all. Those things are creepy.
Anyway. So they lay their egg, and they're all super excited to have this, like, Martian baby. But then all of a sudden, all the air starts going away. Like, the Red Martians had been maintaining this ancient technology that had been providing oxygen to everyone, and it starts to disappear for reasons unknown. And John Carter is the only person who can save it. Surprise. And so he's, like, racing at the, like, last moments of his life to try to save his baby egg. And
did you say he's racist at the last moments of his life?
No.
Sorry.
He was racing towards this one place, and John Carter's the only one who can save the entire planet of Mars. And he thinks he might have saved Mars, but he isn't sure because all of a sudden he's hit on the head, and suddenly he returns to Earth, naked.
Hot.
Right. And then he like goes back to his family home and tells this cousin of his this entire story.
So,
the end.
The end. So you could either take this as like a serious sci-fi fantasy kind of adventure. You could take it as heavy-handed political allegory.
It's not.
Or you could take it as the deluded ramblings of a man who's been knocked out for 3 hours. I don't know. I think there's a lot of number 2 going on.
It's fun. It's a fun story. But then I feel like if I say that, it sounds like I'm defending racism.
Well, you're not.
Anybody who's read, like, vintage sci-fi knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's always that element of casual racism, and I definitely like to poke and prod a little bit about this, because I think in this situation, I feel like it's much more out in the open than most, and
that's true.
You disagree, so...
No, I mean, the first part, yes. Super racist, that introductory part, super racist. Yes. But, I don't know, like, I just feel like, okay, it does get racist again later when they start talking about all the other races of Mars, but this is like several books in when there's like the yellow Martians and the white Martians and the black Martians. Then it gets weird, but none of that is covered in this first one.
Yeah, that's true. So it's sort of like, I have no idea what I'm saying, so I'm just going to edit all that out.
One thing I do want to say, though, and it isn't, I'm guessing that none of your listeners are going to read all 15,000 of these books, so I just want to say something really cool, is that a couple books in, John Carter basically destroys all of their gods. It's so awesome. He basically makes the entire planet of Mars atheists, and not in an obnoxious Twitter way. Like,
all of a sudden, they're all wearing fedoras.
but like in a way that's like, your gods were just people who were manipulating you, and they like throw off the shackles of their like theological overlords, and it's really awesome.
Yeah.
Do you hear how rude he is to me? Do you hear how rude?
This is podcast mode, folks. This is just what goes on, okay? So, now that I'm done being a huge asshole, I'd like to introduce a new segment, or an old segment, called What Would They Do? So, theme song.
Sometimes attention's so hard to define, and others the clear as day. So tell me, what would they do?
Basically, in What Would They Do, I pick out a couple characters from the book and put them in various conundrums they're not placed in the original narrative. And then I like to ask what you think they would do.
Okay.
So I think we're going to start with the more racially charged one.
Great,
here.
of course we are.
And then we'll go on to the fun one. So for the first one, what do you think John Carter would do if he owned an NBA team and were caught saying racist things on YouTube?
Okay. John Carter would be like, look, I respect them and everything they've gone through, but they just simply haven't had the education that a Southern gentleman has had.
Hey, yeah, I actually agree with that. I think that's probably on point. He's a well-meaning fellow.
He I can't even count the number of times he refers to himself as a Southern gentleman in this book.
No, he's a well-meaning fellow. I agree with that. And so let's move on to the more interesting one.
Sorry, that wasn't funny.
No, it doesn't matter. Most of this podcast isn't funny. I just try too hard. So, moving on. Okay, so what would Deja do on RuPaul's Drag Race?
Oh my God! Thank you for asking this question. This is literally all of my interests intertwined. Okay, Deja would obviously be a judge because she's a biological woman, but she would be sitting next to Rue, and they would be like, oh, girl, you are wearing far too many clothes. All you need to be wearing are some medals and maybe some leather straps, maybe a little thing in your hair, but like, there is just far too many clothes on this runway today. And also, no one has any honor.
There you go. I love it, and that is perfect. And I think with that, we're going to take a break. We'll be back here in a few seconds, or however long it takes for me to play a song to figure out what would go here. So, yeah, enjoy, and we will return.
None of you have any honor.
Is there life on Mars?
Thank you very much for sticking around, and we're back. I Don't Even Own a podcast about bad books. With me today is Centa Schumacher.
Hi.
And we're discussing A Princess of Mars, the first in the Barsoom series. I realized I've been very heavy-handed so far with my political opinions regarding this book.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's probably kind of true. And I think, Centa's been a little strong with her love of Deja. I think that's kind of taken the focus as well.
The queen of us all.
Yes. So I think it's time we kind of drop the pretense here and abandon all attempts at serious dialogue and discuss Woola. So,
Woola!
Yes, if you'd like to introduce the audience to Woola, I'd love to give you that privilege.
Okay, so Woola is John Carter's dog. He's a Martian dog, so he has 6 legs. Everything on Mars has 6 legs except the, red Martians.
Wow! Edit that out.
Jay just knocked over all my crystals.
Cool.
Okay, so, Woola. Okay. Woola is John Carter's dog. And he has 6 legs because everything on Mars has 6 legs except the red Martians. But he, Also has like 18 rows of teeth. Okay, it doesn't. I think he maybe has a normal row of teeth, but in my mind, he has 1,000 rows of teeth and kind of is like a frog dog with 6 legs.
A shark.
But then he also looks like my dog.
What? So just so the audience knows, what kind of dog do we have?
We have a deformed English bulldog.
Yes. He doesn't have 6 legs. It's more like 2.
Yeah. 2.5.
I think now would be a good time to make sure to encourage people to visit the rescue facilities in their area if they're interested in a pure breed dog. And if you're not interested in a pure breed dog, definitely go to your ASPCA and adopt a dog. We love our animal, but
don't buy a bulldog.
Yeah, he's hugely deformed. Anyway, so continuing.
Anyway, but Wool is a big, huge watchdog idiot and just kind of follows John Carter around everywhere and is like the most loyal dog ever. So much so that like at some point John Carter has to leave. Woola kind of has to abandon him, and then like 3 weeks later, Woola has run across the entire Martian desert just to find John Carter again.
It's really sweet.
I love Woola, and so I remember reading this book the first time and like reading that passage and then like setting the book down and being like, I love you, Heston. That's our dog's name.
Yeah.
Yes, our dog is named after Charlton Heston.
That's true. And when he gets sad, we call him Depreston. But no, I agree totally. Like the relationship between Mr. Carter and Woola is very, very endearing. And there were many points where I wanted to put the book down and hug my dog as well.
And okay, I know we said we weren't going to talk about the movie at all, but one thing, that was the only thing that the movie got right was Woola.
He was adorable, but I thought
But also kind of frightening?
Yeah, and there was a little too much Last Airbender in there for me, I think.
For Woola?
Yeah.
I don't know, he was very energetic and sloppy and a big idiot like I always imagined Woola to be.
He didn't look the way I imagined him to be.
He kind of looked like I imagined him to be, but nobody else did. But anyway, one thing I want to say is that the reason why Woola loves John Carter so much is because literally no one on Mars is nice, and he is the first person who's ever been nice to Woola ever. And his niceness is that he like rubbed him on his belly once, and then Woola was like his slave for life.
I'm trying so hard not to get back into the politics here.
Oh, please.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Sorry.
well, say it, God.
Sorry. Yeah. It's almost like, like people from, a quote-unquote civilized society with domestic animals as pets may have an easier time forming relationships with animals than those from a tribal society who view them as work.
But, like, that's kind of some bullshit because, like...
It probably
everybody
is.
has pets.
I just fucking hate this book. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I love you. I hate this book.
Well, that's good to know that despite the fact that I like this book, you still love me.
Yeah. This got a little serious. Maybe we can edit that part.
No.
I don't know. Okay.
No?
Yeah, I'm not allowed to edit that part out now.
But okay, we can at least agree that Wool is awesome.
Wool is awesome. We're both on board with that. I think anytime there's a story with like a big, like stupid dog kind of creature, we're always both on board with that. Like
because we have a stupid dog creature.
We do. What was the fabulous, amazing cities of gold?
Yes.
They also have a stupid dog creature that I love,
yes.
And Last Airbender, like we mentioned. I'm trying to think. Never-ending Story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stupid dog creatures, I feel like, are kind of a through line.
Adventure Time?
Yeah, well, he's not stupid at all.
But he's still a dog creature.
Yeah. We're going to get some emails. I'm sure there's some episode that reveals exactly how fucking his origin story came to pass, and he's not a dog creature, and I'm gonna get like weird angry emails from strange nerds.
We couldn't possibly know enough about Adventure Time to satisfy anyone on the internet.
No, that's true.
Because we only watch it occasionally.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
The Hive, I'm sure the Hive Mind will correct us.
I have no doubt.
It's been pretty good at that so far. I believe this is what episode 5. And I've already been receiving a lot of email to tell me about everything I've got wrong. So, congratulations, guys.
Isn't that the best part of this process?
It is, and I even mentioned this last time, but I love the guy who was so mad that we didn't mention Theater of Pain as a Motley Crue album. Like, I don't know, that's so great to me. He was so angry. Like, I don't know. Anyway, sorry. This has been a huge digression. So to get back on track here, I think I'd like to do a couple dramatic readings.
Okay.
It's been so long since I've even skimmed through this book that I don't really have anything selected, so I'm just going to let Centa here entertain you with the sound of her melodious voice as we progress through some NPR selected short style readings of bad passages from books.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound important. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
I presume it is the better part of wisdom that we bow to our fate with as good grace as possible, Deja Thoris. But I hope, nevertheless, that I may be present the next time that any Martian, green, red, pink, or violet, has the temerity to even so much as frown on you, my princess. Deja Thoris caught her breath at my last words and gazed upon me with dilated eyes and quickening breath, and then, with an odd little laugh, which brought roguish dimples to the corner of her mouth, she shook her head and cried, "What a child! A great warrior and yet a stumbling little child." "What have I done now?" I asked, in sore perplexity. "Some day you shall know, John Carter, if we live, but I may not tell you now. And I, the daughter of Mors Kajak, son of Tardos Mors, have listened without anger," she soliloquized in conclusion.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, no, actually, there are passages in this book that, like, actually listening to that, I didn't find that funny at all. I was actually, I was like, that's really good.
No, I know that. I just read you my favorite part of the book, actually.
Yeah. So,
This exchange, okay, this is insider information for any of us great, excellent people who have read all of the books. That like exchange, the princess chieftain exchange, is, while I know kind of dumb, my favorite part of the book. I like think about that quite often as like, oh, that's like the part of the book when neither of them know what they're saying to each other, but they're saying it with all seriousness and feeling. It's so great.
Okay.
Do you want me to explain it?
Sure.
Okay. So, when a woman of Mars calls a man a chieftain, she is basically saying he's the chieftain of her heart.
Ooh.
When a man of Mars calls a woman a princess, he is saying that she is the princess of his heart, or the ruler of his heart. But in this exchange, John Carter doesn't know what the fuck he's saying. He just calls her princess, and she doesn't. And basically, what it is that she like doesn't slap him for getting fresh. And she's
yeah. I see that. That's like a pickup line in books. Yeah.
But she also lets it slip. She calls him chieftain, and he has no fucking idea what she just said. And he's like, okay, whatever.
So the mystery method is happening, but nobody knows what's going on.
Exactly. It's so great.
That's good stuff. But no, I mean, I did not like this book. I can't help but
Did you not like this book?
I did not like this book. And I don't know how much of that was just overshadowed by my inability to see this as not kind of a colonial tale of, like, conquering civilizations. And it's weird that we have such a different viewpoint on it, you know? But, like...
I mean, historically, I am of background of conquerors only.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so translated, I'm white as the day's long, like...
And I'm two weird minorities that don't get counted, but, you know, I'm Jewish and I'm Indian, so it's weird reading this book for me. Definitely, it's hard for me to see kind of the viewpoint of that, especially like you know the Indian side of me has a hard time seeing all the Apache kind of stuff as being like something to be proud of, and then when he kind of takes that to Mars with him, to me it's kind of like he's importing this toxic viewpoint from one place to another.
And to be completely honest and fair, I read this on vacation a couple summers ago and was like, this was so fun, Jay, you have to read this. I had such a good time reading this and had, you know, didn't even think twice about that, and then as soon as he pointed it out, I was like, oh my God, I'm awful. Like, I didn't even think about any of that.
I don't think any of it's really strong enough to be offended by. Like,
yeah,
definitely.
but even that, it just didn't even occur to me that maybe I shouldn't have been like, Jay, you have to read it.
Well, it's as we mentioned before, like on other shows when you weren't a guest, it's like when you recommend things from your youth that maybe like
this wasn't my youth. It was like a year and a half ago.
Okay, I'm just saying, you know,
he's trying to forgive me.
Like, I'm just saying, sometimes I'll tell people Goonies is a great movie, and they hadn't seen Goonies the first time. Goonies is not that great of a movie if you haven't seen it the first time. So.
What he is describing is actually a thing that happened between the two of us.
I was so embarrassed.
Because I hadn't seen the Goonies until I was about 25.
And yeah,
I don't know what was wrong with me that I never saw it in the first place, but it didn't.
It's not that good when you're grown up.
I can see how it would have been good if you had watched it first as a kid, like The Neverending Story. That's a terrible movie, but it's the best movie that's ever been made, and if anyone says anything else, I'll stab you.
Labyrinth is another one like that, I would say.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure. But we are starting to run pretty long here, so I'd like to close up the show, and the way I usually do that is asking if you would recommend this book from either an ironic or an earnest perspective, or both.
Well, I earnestly enjoyed this book and every single book that followed it, even though it was basically the same book like 12 times in a row, with variations of, but this time it's John Carter's daughter, etc. But I don't know, if you are a fan of like fun science fiction, like old-timey kind of science fiction stuff, you will like it. Maybe. Okay, you know what? I don't know. I like it. That's all I can say. Really.
Okay. So kind of a middling recommendation on the earnest side of things. I would say neither. That's me. I think from an ironic perspective, there wasn't really enough that was funny to laugh at, and from an earnest perspective, there was enough to get mad at that I couldn't really process the rest of the narrative. So
wait, there's one thing I wanted to say about John Carter that I didn't get to say yet.
Okay, yeah. Well, let's do that. That's important.
Sorry, I'm cutting in.
No. Everyone needs to get their last words in, and I understand.
One thing I appreciated about John Carter, the character, is that he always did what he thought was the right thing to do, even if it meant it was going to fuck him over royally. Like, he obeyed his own code of ethics every single time without fail. Even if his code of ethics was potentially questionable, he never ever once deviated. And in this like time of anti-heroes and, you know, dark ninja Batman, it's nice to have just a guy who's like basically the Captain America of Mars.
So one of the things I was going to mention here, and I was saving this for the end, is that Superman was based on John Carter.
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah, and mostly because of that kind of concept of him being able to jump super high and move super fast, like outside of gravity. So Edgar Burroughs actually beat the comic book industry to Superman by many years, and like it's been quoted that Superman was very much influenced by John Carter and his ability on Mars. So. Yeah. So,
but what's funny is that I've never enjoyed superhero movies. Never.
In a way, John Carter was the first kind of superhero in the way that you think of a guy having supernatural powers that allowed him to fight this greater evil.
True.
Like, unless you want to just look into, like, magic and shit like that.
Yeah,
but as far as, like, a human being who's been accelerated to the point where he can use his human capabilities to do this shit, like, that was kind of the first time that happened, and I think that's kind of interesting in a lot of ways.
Can I also say that it's been quoted several times that Carl Sagan was actually very influenced by John Carter and read them when he was a child. And we all love Carl Sagan, don't we?
It makes it so much harder for me to be like, don't read this book. Because I really think that this book sucks like a zillion dicks in hell.
But you know what? Like, you know what this book is? This is what Ray Bradbury and what, you know, Arthur C. Clarke, what all of them read before they started writing science fiction.
It's like what they would have written if they had no idea how to, like, actually tell a story.
Well, no, it's like, this was like proto-science fiction in a way. I mean, it was one of the first popular science fiction, like, series. It was published in magazines and stuff before they were published as books.
That's true. Yeah, there were serials. I forget the name, but it was published as a serial adventure before it became A Princess of Mars, the first novel.
And so all of these science fiction writers that we love and have imagined these utopian societies were first influenced by this kind of stuff. So, I don't know. It's just something to think about.
No, it's there. And I mean, this is definitely this stuff stands tall in the legacy of sci-fi for sure. I just think it's kind of bad. But that's my opinion.
But never fear. If you want to read this, you don't have to pay a single cent because this first book, A Princess of Mars, is available on Project Gutenberg for 0 cents.
Yes, and definitely anytime I get a chance to plug Project Gutenberg, I love to do so. Because it's great to read books for free and educate yourself.
Catch up on your classics.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe not that book.
Read the shit that you thought would be boring.
Tons of Thomas Hardy on there.
Yeah, I found myself enjoying a Tolstoy novel, so you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I guess we're pretty much come to the end here. I'd like to give Centa a chance here to plug anything that you've got going on at all. Websites, events, anything of the sort.
Okay. So, as briefly mentioned, I'm an artist. I really don't have anything to do with literature except reading it. My website is www.centaschumacher.com.
That's spelled with a C, by the way.
CentaSchumacher.com. Also, if anyone's in San Francisco, I'm going to be in a show at 111 Minna on May 15th. It's a one-night show, and I have a really beautiful piece up, and it's a benefit for the educational department of the D. Young Museum. So come on by. I think it starts at 8, goes till 1 in the morning. There's dancing and drinks and art.
Yeah, 101 Minna, definitely.
111 Minna.
111 Minna. If you're in San Francisco and you've never been to an opening there, you should go. It's a lot different than what you expect from an art opening. Twerking maker. So
I've never done that.
No, of course not.
I think it's the 16th, not the 15th.
Well, look it up.
We'll post it on the Facebook.
Yeah, it'll be on the Facebook page, the official date when we're not drunk, or maybe I'll update this later. Who knows what's going to happen? But for now, I'd just like to thank all of you for sticking around and listening to I Don't Even Own Television.
Except we do.
Except, yeah, we do. But we will be back next week, hopefully, with the originally scheduled Pancho Martinez episode about Michelle Remembers, but if not, there will be something interesting to listen to, and until then, keep reading.
I know a bar out in Mars where they driving spaceships instead of cars. Cop a Prada spacesuit about the stars. Getting stupid high straight about the jaws. Pockets on Shrek, rockets on deck. Tell me what's next, alien sex. I'ma disrobe you, then I'ma probe you.